Have you ever looked at an album that was technically perfect and felt nothing at all? Well, by the year 2000, rock music was having a bit of an identity crisis. Much of it was far too clean, digitized, and safe. The human connection to subgenres like alternative rock and groove metal were being replaced by the corporate products pushed through post-grunge and nu metal. But while the mainstream was becoming polished and ultra-produced, there was a massive subculture that went the other direction. Instead of electronic loops, 9-piece DJ bands, and rap rock posturing, this movement stripped it all back down to what made rock and roll appealing in the first place. Why is it that when the world gets overly polished, we crave that blown-out, lo-fi distortion of garage rock and noise rock, 80s hardcore and 90s post-hardcore music? It's because it felt real. When you're surrounded by bands that feel like they're being pushed down your throat by an algorithm, you might feel less like a fan and more like a sheep being herded to your pen. I think a lot of our brains fight back against this sort of forced perfection. We crave things that have spontaneity, dissonance, and tension. For me, understanding why stuff like noise rock and garage rock resonates so deeply with us means looking past just the chords and the notes and looking at the actual texture of the music. Take a band like The Strokes, for example. Before they blew up globally, they had been working away in the gritty, post-punk underground of New York City, playing legendary downtown spots like the Mercury Lounge and Arlene's Grocery. When they recorded Is This It in 2001, producer Gordon Raphael wanted to capture that raw, live-in-a-room energy New York City had been witnessing for months. To actually pull off Julian Casablancas' signature lo-fi growl, they relied on a technique he himself experimented with at home, running his vocals through a tiny 8-inch PV practice amp, which Raphael then captured with a high-end Neumann condenser mic. By taking a clean human voice and forcing it through a cheap, overdriven practice amp, they essentially blew out the signal, giving it that supremely raw and loud sound we love to this day.
When we was young, how man did we have fun? Always, always.
We see the same obsession with texture if we go back and look at 90s noise rock. Bands like Helmet and the Jesus Lizard, or the abrasive production of Steve Albini, weren't trying to sound good in that traditional high-fidelity studio sense. Even when a band like Helmet signed to big labels like Interscope, they brought their crushing, mechanical precision with them. The appeal was always the friction, the clipping vocals, the piercing metallic bass lines, the bleeding microphones, and the uncompressed drum rooms. They weren't mistakes. They were the entire point. The contrast today is wild, because in the digital space, everything is frictionless. You tap a piece of glass, an algorithm delivers a perfect match, and the experience vanishes the second the song ends. There is no resistance, but punk, hardcore, post-hardcore, noise rock, and garage rock are built on resistance. Think about the physical format and the packaging of that era. Labels like Touch and Go, AmRep, or Discord Records weren't wrapping labels in complex digital renders. This was the golden era of the underground cassette and 7-inch record culture, where music was traded back and forth between friends on tape with hand photocopied J-cards. The whole package told you exactly what you were getting into. It was stubborn, it was deliberately unpolished. It was a visual cue that told you the person who made this doesn't really care if you like it or not. They cared more about the energy they were putting out than the revenue that was coming in. Music history is really just a big pendulum. Whenever mainstream music goes too far in one direction, the counterculture comes back and pulls it in. By 2001, the corporate rock radio machine had reached peak capitalization. Everything on the airwaves was massive, expensive, and hyper-compressed. And right on cue, the pendulum swung. Bands like the White Stripes, the Hives, and the Black Keys blew up not because they were inventing a new genre, but because they brought back the danger of limitations. Jack and Meg White proved that just with two people, a modified guitar, and a strict red and white color palette, you could command more attention than the rest of the commercial rock scene. Bands like these reminded everyone that limitations breed creativity. When you don't have infinite digital tracks or pitch correction to hide behind, you have to rely entirely on the raw performance. Hardcore punk fans knew this in 1981, grunge fans knew this in 1991, and this garage revival reminded the world of it in 2001. We live in an era where technology can make everything flawless. Voices are made sterile, the production is perfectly quantized, and every ounce of human pain and suffering is scrubbed away before it even hits the radio. We are left with this engineered state of music.
I'll tell you, boy, go away, boy, you bother me. It's way easier to sing like Foghorn Leghorn than it is to learn conventional vocal technique to sing in a pretty style or to develop your own personal delivery. The Christian crybaby grunge, contemporary grunge music, that has nothing to do culturally or in terms of identity with the legitimate bands from the underground that inspired them, right? Mm-hmm. I don't actually know that they did inspire them. You know what happens if you stick 5 pennies in somebody's ass? You get Nickelback.
Smooth things don't stick in your skull like that. You need edges, you need dirt. We crave the garage rock revival, the noise rock chaos, and the hardcore breakdowns because our brains are hardwired to look for that humanity. And humanity is messy, it's distorted, and we make mistakes often. So next time you pull out a physical record and put it on the platter or pull out a CD to listen to, remember that realness, remember that humanity. It's the ultimate proof that there was a real, flawed human on the other side just waiting to be heard. If you want to dive a little bit deeper, go check out my Substack. It's pretty new at the moment. If this idea resonates with you, there will be a long list of recommendations, old archival photos I found, and some rare cassettes and 7-inch records that really shaped this whole era. Click the link in the description, check out my recommendations if you want to, and let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching again, guys. Peace.
What are you listening to right now?
There's a band from America, from New York City, called The Strokes. They are possibly the finest band to come out of New York since Blondie. And they sound a cross between the Velvet Underground, the Stooges, and a lot of 80s new wave stuff. They're fantastic.